What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone 2. We're going to go over comments from last week's podcast. Why not Fender? This is a funny one. I, it started off as a Facebook post, and then it was just like, you know what? We're going to talk about this because there's a lot of folks that have um, maybe just honestly, a lot of guitar players are just like groupthink along with everybody else and don't actually do research for themselves. Or maybe we just get stuff stuck in our head, right? And I was that way for a long time. I was actually a Strat guy, didn't like tellies, and now I love you know what I mean? Like if you're open to new things, it's awesome. So we're gonna go through these comments and see what anybody says here. I understand the less tension on a string, say 24-inch scale duosonic, is less bright than more tension. I say like a 25.5-inch Strat, but why does my Fender HS duosonic sound bright? Scale length, I mean, there's a real thing you could get into the weeds here, but scale length isn't going to just control brightness. It's kind of a misnomer. I think it's going to change your interaction with the guitar, obviously. Yes, different scale lengths tend to lean different ways, but it's not going to be an EQ thing. That one's a bit hard to explain. I would have to give that some thought to be able to figure out how to explain that. So I'm going to tell you right now, what you're saying sounds stupid. It might, because I don't have it totally articulated here. I haven't looked at these comments ahead of time. But scale length isn't just going to be like an EQ thing. It's just not going to be less highs, low high, less lows or highs or whatever. It's not going to be that. Scale length does a lot more than that. But honestly, I wouldn't dive too deep into it. I wouldn't dive too deep into that. What's wrong with the Player series? Nothing. They're great guitars. I'm just not a fan of the condition of some of them that I've gotten into the shop. They're probably better now, but I did it during a period. The last ones I had, I'm going to say this. I'm not going to do what everybody else does. 5 years ago, they sucked. And so they always suck. That's not like that. But about 3 years ago, they did suck. And I haven't had one since. So maybe I should get another one and we should try it because it's probably better. Are they everywhere because they are good? They're everywhere because they are in a great price point for a good guitar. Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy with my Fender Stratocaster. I wish it had 24 frets. Okay. Yeah, because we talked about who needs 24 frets. My 12-string electric has 24 frets. I think it's neat, but that guitar also has bad frets starting around 15 or 16, so I couldn't play there if I wanted to. Oh, that's pretty funny. New car, new deck. I got a new guitar. Yeah. So we did get a new car last week, and we are having a deck built. And I'm happy for you to have a new guitar. I wonder what it is. There is no best, just currently preferred. Agreed. That moves around quite a bit. A 24 fret neck can physically force the neck pickup away from optimal nodal alignment. He is right in this, depending on the scale length. The nodes move as one plays, so the player must know his instrument's limits and how to compensate. Jimi Hendrix compensated and preferred a Strat for its ability to allow such. He also bought and played the best he could and improved whatever possible in order to support his artistry. I don't know about that. It's not enough to just know what, but also explore the how and why. Most of what you say here, I agree. I don't think that Jimi Hendrix put that much thought into it. He put a lot of thought into his playing, but the gear was just kind of what the gear was. The node thing, I'm glad that you picked up on the fact that the nodes move around when you play, because a lot of people don't think as soon as you fret a note that none of this matters, like pickup placement. It does still, but it changes, so it matters less. Trends come and go. Many people get a kick out of being trendy. If that's your thing, it'll spill over to any area you allow. Even spending can be trendy. Okay. Yeah. Liking stuff is cool, right? When I die, I want people to be like, that guy was really into something and he thought this was cool instead of that guy hated everything. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a different vibe. I like stuff. I just like stuff. I think it's cool. Let's see. Feedback is qualified only when the reaction feed the maker. I don't know what that means. Customization by definition is more about the item being designed to allow for adjustment to the player. Okay, sure. People always want to reduce that to function. I care about how things look too. Buy what you like, but be able to say what it is about it that you like. Most of the time, right? But sometimes there's things that aren't quantifiable. Sometimes it's just like, dang, this is just, I can't even tell, but I just love this, right? So sometimes it's an emotional thing too, you know? On my tellies, I purchased switch plates with the volume and tone controls further away from the three-way switch, and it solves two problems. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I don't own a Strat, not because I don't like them. I do. I just haven't bought one yet. Maybe I will. The volume knob placement doesn't bother me. I get that some people don't like it, and that's okay. I do like having two tone controls. I use the tone controls, and if I'm playing with two pickups, I sometimes use different tone settings on the pickups. Good, that's cool. So I don't like losing that option. If a guitar only has a master tone, I can adapt. After all, I love a Fender Mustang. Yeah, so that's neat. I always say that if you're not using your tone and your volume knobs, you're not getting the most out of your guitar, and you're kind of missing out on a lot of things that the guitar can do. So that's pretty cool. Fenders can be cool. If you don't like that guitar, that's fine. You don't have to. Not every guitar is for everybody, and that's okay. Like what you like. There are guitars I don't like. I try to keep it fair, and some of them are well-made guitars that many people love. The guitar may not be designed or intended for what I do, and don't insult people because they like stuff you don't. Be thankful for variety and choices. I agree, and I feel like this should be something that kind of permeates through the community. And sometimes some of these comments, I swear, these people are just saying it to themselves to reinforce themselves, which is good. Um, let's see, RE 24 frets. Honestly, don't play those last two frets that much, but it's much easier visually and mentally to play a 24 fret guitar because you have an additional reference point to anchor to. I don't care enough to avoid 22 and 21 fret guitars. It's a slight preference, 22 versus 21. I have a pretty strong preference for 22, but it's just not that much marginal cost to have 22. And yes, I have different guitars to handle the 24 fret thing. Okay, so that's neat. So he uses that as a visual reference. The cost is a bit different because you have to completely re-engineer the guitar. So it's not a cost thing. Like it costs more to have two more. It's just a cost difference because the guitar has to be designed differently from the ground up. So that's an interesting thing to use it as a visual reference. I never thought of that because you have kind of that equal length, right, from the 12th to the 24th. That's pretty cool. I dislike the Strat volume pot position, but I just put some foam underneath the knob and around the pot, and it adds enough friction that I don't bump it. The other thing you could do is go to the hardware store, like take a pot with you to the store, and you could get a little O-ring from like Home Depot, and you can slide it down on the pot shaft first, and then put the knob on top of it, and that'll give you a little friction, and it'll stay where you want it to go. I have mostly bolt-on guitars. They sustain just as long as yes, bolt-on guitars. That whole argument is dumb. People don't seem to realize the amount of guitars that Fender and Gibson turns out. There's going to be some not perfect ones. Yeah, I think that's true. There's thousands of them, right? Let's see. Fenders are perfect guitars. There's no problem reaching the higher frets. You don't like where the volume knob is, then move it. Yeah, so like if you want to do that, we can make a pickguard with the knob moved down for sure. Yeah, the volume thing isn't that inconvenient. It's sloppy technique that makes it a problem. And I agree with you on all your points, Dylan. Oh, thanks. Yeah, not everybody does. I get that. I have several Indonesian guitars. I bought them to install DTT pickups. The tuners and pots were an expected part of the upgrade. I planned it and kind of enjoy doing the work. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, upgrade stuff for the fun of it's fun. There are some frets on my guitars that have never been touched by me, at least. I'm looking forward to my Widowmakers. Yeah, cool. Looks like he ordered a set of our Widowmakers. That's rad. I remove the volume pot on my strats and just keep the lower two, one master and one master tone. This allows me to anchor my pinky where I want and strum without inadvertently adjusting my volume. It's no big deal. I do it on all my strats. Yeah, a lot of people do that kind of thing. Yeah, that's rad. Um, when I bought my American Strat 22 years ago, it had some stripped screws on the weird Floyd design Fender locking bridge. I have that one. Fender sent a free replacement bridge assembly, and I got to keep the old one for parts. And now I have a rare Fender locking tremolo bridge. Dude, those things go for almost $1,000 on eBay. They're so hard to find. I had one stripped out too, and I got lucky. A buddy of mine had one, and I bought the parts to fix it. But yeah, I get it. Another complaint is that guitar had drips on the body, and they just polished over some orange peel. Dude, that was an era, right? That was a total era of that. Um, Full grown men rip solos on the mandolin, but your guitar frets are too small to play. Oh my god, I love this comment. Yes, you might win so far for comments. This is rad. Bolt on shame, whatever. They all have pros and cons. Talk to me once you've had an SG and the heel joint cracks and you have to pay for a repair that it plays well again. Yeah, maybe it sustains better. It doesn't, but I'm sure I can figure out a way to fix that with pedals. And I don't like the neck. Just get a new one. Yeah, exactly. That's what Fenders are cool about. I have three Fenders and I dig them. AV2, 51 Tele, Am Pro, and Am Pro Strat. He has three. He has a bunch of guitars. That's cool. Neck joint. Well, I can't call out people who make this a big deal because I have to have 22 frets. Ask me how much time I spend up there. I just like the modern spec strats. Yeah, you like what you like. That's cool. My brother and I started making guitars just for ourselves. Luckily, he has all the tools needed. But I sold off all of my Fender stuff and I built a Strat and Jazzmaster from Quality Parts. This way I get exactly what I want in a guitar rather than what Fender thinks I want. Yeah, that's tough because sometimes there's a combination of stuff that you don't want. Uh, you know, some volume stuff here. Uh, Fender Musical Instrument Company is evil and needs to go away. Buy a GNL, PRS, etc. before a Fender. I don't know what they did to hurt you. They seem to be fantastic. They, um, your friends end up having all the guitars and recording gear you want. Isn't that weird? Like you end up playing each other's stuff, and yeah, it's kind of funny. I've had many guitar brands. I've lived with no guitars. It doesn't matter. In fact, I loved my friends' guitars the best. Yeah, exactly. Just let your own opinions be the guide of what guitar gear you prefer. That's my advice for any guitar player. It's funny that people want to keep making those comments like, just buy what you want. Well, yeah, that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about it. I'm developing a new respect for the GNL ASAT. Yeah, I'm glad you dig those. They kind of have an interesting cult following. Um, I only have two songs that require 24 frets, and they are both by Megadeth. I have a Mustaine V for that. I own five 24 fret guitars. I like the history of Fender, and it was my dad's guitar, but let's face it, Ibanez and Schecter are better designed instruments. That's interesting. Okay. I would say that there's a lot of brands that have evolved from them. And yeah, Fender and Gibson really were the first. They were the first. And so you are going to naturally have evolutions from there. Um, Not necessarily copies, there's going to be evolutions. But I think the real thing is still cool for me personally. And so that's why I like it. The Stratocaster volume pot position sucks, but only if you want to palm mute. Yeah, I get that. Let me just make sure we didn't miss any here. To hell with the global market. I put the American people and our products first. I buy American-made products over others when I can. Fender Vintage 2 guitars are the best. out there. I still dislike intensely the ultra guitars and only the old school Fenders. Otherwise, you might as well buy a sweatshop global market guitar and be a scumbag. Okay, I mean, it's yeah, you feel strongly about that apparently. Whatever. All right, cool. Well, that's it. Thanks for hanging out, and I guess we'll see you in the next video. Go check out Dylan Talks Tone and the other stuff over there. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you